Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is, of course, um, Monday, April 21st, 2025. So, of course, a friendly reminder to you guys, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we get some more friendly people here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions the best of my ability. And as we do, looks like we have 3 people in here now. I guess I'll just go ahead rather than wait, see if more people come in. I guess I'll get right into talking about what's on tap for tonight. So for tonight, we're going to go over a couple articles from Bounding in the Comics, both kind of Marvel related. And we're going to hear more from Rob Liefeld in one of the articles, talking about how Marvel apparently is not doing right by the writers and artists who work for them. Also, we got some news that Marvel Comics has also announced a new swimsuit special for the first time in like 30 years, pinup book to tease future Marvel rivals costumes. So we got those 2 articles. We're also wrestling wrap up tonight. We'll be talking more or less just exclusively WWE tonight. As of course, as many of you probably know, in Vegas this past weekend, WWE had the 2-night event of WrestleMania. Quite a bit to talk about there, as there was quite a bit of stuff going on there that some of which fans did not care for. Others, it's kind of, some people were saying that it's a bit of a mixed bag. We'll be talking about both nights, going over the results and all that, and and then of course we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and get right into it? Let me just pull up the Bounding in the Articles thing here. All right, so let's get into this. All right, so let's look at this first article. Get right into this first article here. So, Deadpool co-creator Rob Liefeld slams Marvel Comics for being quote ignorant and willfully dismissive, unquote, to writers and artists. Quote, we are treated like, well, it's a 4-letter word that means the stuff that comes out of your butt. I think you all know what that is. So, article by Spencer Cooley, published on April 17th, 2025, which of course was last Thursday. Now let's get into this then. Not one to mince words when it comes to his thoughts on the comic book industry, iconic Cable and Deadpool and Youngblood, in parentheses there, creator Rob Liefeld, has once again taken public aim at Marvel Comics over their quote-unquote dismissive treatment of the actual talent responsible for the publisher's financial and cultural success. There's some artwork there. This is from Deadpool makes his comic book debut in New Mutants Volume 1, number 98, The Beginning of the End, Part 1, 1990. Marvel words by Rob Liefeld and Fabian Nicieza. Art by Rob Liefeld, Steve Buccellato, and Joe Rosen. All right, so Liefeld let loose against his now former employee while speaking to comicbook.com's Evan Valentine in promotion of the newly launched Youngblood Volume 3 itself the first entry in his effort to revive and create a multimedia franchise out of his original creator-owned series. Asked by Valentine for his opinion on the present state of the overall industry's relationship with creators, the Image Comics co-founder immediately declared, in quotes here, "We are treated like," word that rhymes with hit, that means the stuff that comes out of your rear end, unquote. Quote, "No one wants to say this, but we are treated terribly even after all these years," unquote, he continued. Quote, "We are the George R. Martins and the Stephen Kings of our business. Try to make stuff without us and see what happens," unquote. And though Liefeld was pressed on the overall industry, it seems his thoughts were more focused on Marvel Comics specifically, as evidenced by the fact that he then recalled, quote, "I have some other films in development right now, and I can tell you that the other studios I work with now aren't as ignorant and willfully dismissive as Marvel is," unquote. Man, he sure seems to have an axe to grind with Marvel, doesn't he? I wonder once he gets that axe sharpened, I wonder where he wants to put it. Right? Right? Anyways, kind of be interesting where he'd like to place that axe, as it were. Once he had ground it and sharpened it, as it were. Alright, so anyways, quote, "People ask how can I do this," unquote. The Youngblood creator said of his recent decision to voluntarily break up with a publisher, quote, "I don't need anything from them. I hope things would end on a better note, but I wake up every day thrilled to make whatever I want," unquote. Proceeding to fully turn his attention towards the current Deadpool and cable IP holders, he then admitted, quote, "I love the characters I created for Marvel, and it's sad to say goodbye to them, but I'm happy," unquote. Quote, "It's sad that more creators won't stand up, but I was in a vacuum," unquote, Liefeld told Valentine. Quote, "Myself and my fellow Image founders did a solid for this business, as Image Comics has delivered one its initial well, I think it's supposed to be delivered on its initial promises, so I think there's a typo there. You come to Image Comics and you keep your entertainment rights. You enter with them and you exit with them. That was always our intent. We put our money where our mouth was on that one," unquote. And the Deadpool family. Or the Deadpool core. Okay. Let's see. And again, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, as we continue here, closing out his thoughts on this particular topic, the New Mutants Volume 1 Legend clarified that when it comes to his continual campaigning for creators' rights, quote, "I'm not going to necessarily call to arms for fans. The ultimate deal is I want to spread the word that it ultimately costs them nothing to treat us better," unquote. Quote, I'm not talking about me, but I want better treatment for the next generation of comic creators, unquote, said Liefeld. Quote, ultimately, it almost feels like creators are the bothersome to these companies. They talk to you like, quote, in smaller quotes, you're lucky that we tolerate you, in smaller quotes. When I was 22 years old, I sold Cable, Deadpool, and Domino, and I cut good deals. Making that choice for those characters ultimately just be cool, unquote. For those unaware, Liefeld's current vitriol for the whole Marvel Entertainment first sparked in 2023 when, contrary to usual industry practice, the company chose to formally credit Marvel Comics' then editor in chief, Roy Thomas, as co creator for Deadpool, alongside both himself and writer Fabian Nicieza. Um, from there, things only soured further when, in response to asking for an explicit, in smaller quotes, highlight credit on Deadpool and Wolverine, in recognition of his creating the character, and only a credit as he asked for no additional money, Liefeld was reportedly met with genuine anger and finger wagging from Marvel. The final nail in the Liefeld Marvel coffin would subsequently come with the premiere of the Merc with a mouth official MCU debut, as while he and his family were invited to the red carpet, they I guess that's supposed to be they, not there. They were given the cold shoulder by Kevin Feige and his fellow Disney executives, while there were while there were later where later they were later told while there they were I guess okay, another typo there. They were later told that a good amount of the photos taken of them or featuring them that night had been deleted on the mouse's orders, and that he was not on the guest list for the film's after party. Oh boy, talk about nasty, man! Talk about giving somebody the finger, right? Boy, yeesh. Quote: at some point, you go in small words, I've received the message, and the message is clear. Unquote. He later admitted on his Robservations podcast. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to just go with that. You just go. All right, you guys don't like me. You don't want to deal with me anymore. Fine, I just screw it. I'm not gonna even. I don't even bother. You guys are a bunch of bleep heads. The first issue of Liefeld's Youngblood Volume 3 Revival is now on sale with special variants currently available through his personal web store. Alrighty then. So there we go with that one, with that article. Let's see where we're at on time here. See who's here. Alright, so 14 minutes. Alright, so let's move on to the next article here then. Other one based on Marvel here. Let me see. Let's try one more thing here. See if we can at least get some more interest here. Alright. All right, so let's get into this next article here. All right, so Marvel Comics announces new swimsuit special for first time in 30 years. Pinup book to tease future Marvel rivals costumes. All right. All right, so let's see here. All right, so here goes. Article by Spencer McCulley, published April 18th, which is, of course, this past Friday. So you got what looks like there, I believe that's from left to from. All right, well, apparently you didn't get all of the ones they were talking about, but the ones we do see here, it looks like Rogue, She-Hulk, and Mary Jane Watson right there. So apparently there are a few others there in the screen that they just didn't get in there. So in a revival that admittingly seemed in italic here, completely out of the question, given the current social attitude towards anything that could even remotely be considered sexy, Marvel Comics has shockingly announced that for the first time in 3 decades, and ostensibly in order to bank off of the massive success of Marvel Rivals Hero Shooter, this summer will see the release of a brand new Marvel swimsuit special. I've seen some lovely ladies here, well, even some guys here. So, anyways, a staple of early '90s comic book culture, the Marvel swimsuit specials were intended as a parody to the annual Sports Illustrated swimsuit issues. In present, so much so that the first such special was actually titled Marvel Illustrated, the swimsuit issue. Oh boy, kind of funny how you have to wonder if Sports Illustrated had actually considered possibly um, filing a copyright issue or some kind of like lawsuit or something over it. But I don't know. But I guess you couldn't sue because that's something that's just very generic. I mean, they couldn't copyright the idea of a swimsuit issue because that's a more generic issue, I would imagine. And delivered exactly what they promised on. The cover, various swimsuit pinups of Marvel's costumed heroes and villains, featuring contributions from a range of artists, including such eventual industry superstars as Adam Hughes, Gary Frank, and Dan Panosian. The specials depicted not just the publisher's female heroes like Scarlet Witch and Wasp, but also its male ones, including Captain America, Hulk, and Scarlet Spider. Now, mind you, Hulk is kind of he's kind of in almost a he's almost in a you could argue that he's almost in a swimsuit in a way. His ripped pants there, are, basically get torn to shreds enough to the where they shorten to where they're almost are like shorts. And though this particular type of, in smaller quote, cheesecake special, unsmaller quote, seemed to have the final nail put into its coffin with the now infamous outrage surrounding Milo Manera's Spider Woman Volume 5, number 1 cover in a surprising twist. Marvel Comics has surprised even their own reader base with the announcement of the Marvel swimsuit special. Friends, foes, and right. Well, maybe there are some people at Marvel who are finally realizing that this woke mindset is not working for them, and they need to start appealing to more people on the other side. Possibly, maybe. Sporting a main cover from the aforementioned hues and 3 variants provided by Mark Brooks, Torrin Clark, and Russell Dodderman, respectively, the special will not only present readers with hot new looks at their favorite characters, but do so as part of an original story provided by writers Tim Seeley and Tony Fleeks and artist Nick Bradshaw. So I guess here's the full cover of what we were looking at earlier. So here you have from left to right there you have the current Captain Marvel, Rogue, She-Hulk, Mary J. Watson, and Scarlet Witch. I believe it's Scarlet Witch, right? Black Widow, not Scarlet Witch. Black Widow. Quote, Roxxon Comics is at it again when they release their own unauthorized swimsuit special, unquote, reads Marvel Comics official issue teaser. Quote, Wasp is on the case and seizes the opportunity for Marvel's heroes to do their own swimwear fashion shoot all over the world. But fear not, true believers. We know what you're really here for. The supersized special feature splash page after splash page of gorgeous art, but with a story so you can pretend you're, in small quote, reading it for the articles. the classic excuse whenever you get a mature magazine, as it were, is that, well, yeah, I get it, but I just read it for the articles. Right? Like anybody is really that naive to be that fooled. Anyways, as we, of course, continue on here. Set to feature pinups from a number of artists, with Nick Klein of Credible Hulk Volume 4 fame, Marguerite Sauvage, Life of Captain Marvel Volume 2, and Luciano Vecchio, Venom War, Venomous Volume 1. Being the only thus far confirmed contributors, the special will notably, quote, also includes designs for new costumes coming soon to the Marvel Rivals, the mega popular multiplayer video game from Marvel Games and NetEase Games. To this end, while it's unclear just exactly what these new Marvel Rival suits will look like, considering both the swimsuit focus of the issue and NetEase Games' particularly titillating design philosophies, there's a good chance that their appearance will light the internet absolutely ablaze. Remember the reactions to Malice's introduction? There you got Jean Grey and Scott Summers right there. Let's see. Barring any unforeseen publishing or shipping delays, the Marvel Swimsuit Special, Friends, Foes, and Rivals, Volume 1, One Shot, is currently scheduled to crash onto shelves on July 9th, right in the midst of summer, folks. So you can take it to the beach and have all your fantasies fulfilled, right? Alrighty then. So let's see, where are we at on time? Yeah, we're at 25 minutes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move right in because I believe, as I said before here, um, you know, part of this is I believe that I'm going to be, I believe we're going to be, because of the fact that this past weekend was WrestleMania weekend, we're just for the rest, we're going to move right into the wrestling wrap up here as the whole coverage for the wrestling wrap up is going to be basically surrounding um, WrestleMania as I believe, with 2 days of coverage and stuff like that, and stuff to talk about with each match. Um, we got a lot to go over. So anyways, on to the wrestling wrap up here. I'm going to now look at what happened in Las Vegas. A lot of times, what they say is what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? So let's just go ahead and take a look at all this. And we're going to go back to, of course, Saturday night first, and go over the card from WrestleMania, and then afterwards, of course, we'll also talk about what's going to happen on tonight's follow-up show. Follow up, the Raw following WrestleMania, as also with WrestleMania City. Usually after WrestleMania, you'll also, and considering that WWE has had a number of signings and re-signings in the past few months here, you're going to probably see a bit of a purge too coming up after WrestleMania here. Also, partly to kind of cleaning house a bit, but also to open the door to some other potential signings that could be coming up in the next few months. Talk a little bit about that as well. So, anyways, let's talk about what happened. First off, let's look back to Saturday night. As you know, WrestleMania as a whole was not really looked at too fondly. There's a lot of things that happened that some things people liked, but they didn't like how it happened. Other things people didn't like at all, and then some people there's one or two things that people I think just genuinely liked. But let's go through it. So the opening match on Saturday saw Jey Uso defeat Gunther for the World Heavyweight title. Sorry about that. Anyways. So now, in that, of course, Jey Uso. Now, thing is, Jey Uso was the the men's Royal Rumble winner this year. The World Heavyweight title did not get. So the first thing that people were kind of might have been a little miffed about was the fact that this was not going to be a main event. You'd think that most people would think that a world title shot or your top title shot would normally be the main event. But instead, this opened up the show. This opened up the whole 2 nights. Match quality itself was fine. It's just that a lot of people were really unhappy with the booking because Jey Uso, what ended up happening is Jey Uso did beat Gunther. He beat him with his own hold, the sleeper hold, and Gunther tapped out. He didn't pass out or anything like that. He just tapped out. Now, of course, a lot of people were not happy with this because they just felt like, a big part of this is you kind of make Gunther look kind of like a chump doing this. After Gunther had been doing all this stuff, I mean, they kind of painted themselves in the corner that they did need to, put the title on Jey, even if it was in a transitional state, just waiting for the next guy to come along and take it from him. But Jey is doing fine as a performer. It's just that this booking was just bad and it kind of makes Jey look bad too, because because after all that Gunther did to him and Jimmy and everybody, right? Gunther was built up as this monster heel, and then he taps out to a sleeper that Jey Uso applies. In a way that makes Gunther look weak, but even make it, and it kind of makes the win over Gunther even less of a big deal, because it's like, did you actually beat the monster Gunther, or did you just beat somebody who just phoning it in? He decided, okay, Jay's got me in a sleeper, my own hold, so I'm just going to tap out. WWE may have wanted to elevate Jay, but many people have argued this was probably not the way to do it. I think people did have some problems with the build a bit too. And even though there's been a lot of criticism, kind of funny, you talk about a tale of two worlds too, right? Jay's there's been a lot of people who were critical of Jay even being in this position in the first place. So a lot of people felt that he may not be ready for this position, as it were. But he could come back. I mean, back in 1991, Undertaker was in a similar position where they decided to put the WWF title on him for like a few days, then give it back to Hogan. And he eventually recovered from that. Maybe Jay will recover from this, but the whole booking here was just kind of just stunk, because by having Gunther tap out to the sleeper and having him pass out it does actually make him look weaker, and therefore kind of soils the victory for Jay in the first place, because the guy tapped out. The guy just chose to give up as opposed to being put to sleep. He didn't try to fight it. So it makes Gunther look weak, and makes Jay's win look weaker than it is. So, but anyways, that was the first match that happened at WrestleMania. Then as we move on to the next match was for the WWE World Tag Team Championships. War Raiders defending against Eric and Ivar defending against the New Day of Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. The New Day defeated the War Raiders. Match again was all right. Just again, some people criticized the booking. This coming into WrestleMania, this match did not get a huge build. There wasn't a huge build there. And really, they haven't been able to do much with New Day since their heel turn, and they're turning on Big E. Now, whether or not they think that maybe by putting the belts on them that will help their heel run, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But there wasn't really much build here. The New Day getting the win on the War Raiders here. And moving on to the third match of the evening, so they get there. There are some people who said that maybe in fact, going back to the world title match, there are some people who said that the Street Profits versus Motor City Machine Guns would have been the better match to have on WrestleMania than the world title match, the WWE Tag Title match, which was held on Friday, of course, which the Street Profits were able to retain, albeit you had former champions DIY of Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano coming out and stealing the belts. Anyway, I do need to go off camera here for a quick moment. But I'll put some music on while I'm done here. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Well, anyways, let's get back to talking about what was going down with the match. So third match saw in the first non-gimmick, non-title single women's match in WrestleMania history. It took them 41 years to do all this. Jade Cargill defeated Naomi in a match that many had high praise for due to the fact that probably considered of all the stories going into WrestleMania, considered the best built story, as Jade Cargill basically coming back to get vengeance on Naomi for taking her out during of course Bianca Belair and initially Naomi's run as tag team champion when Naomi went down injured, and then Jade Cargill came in to fill in for her. It's now been, it was eventually revealed that Naomi was the one who took out Cargill, and so thereby having the best built match here for the first non-title, non-gimmicked women's match in WrestleMania history. And then the next match saw in the United States tag title match, probably another match that was viewed with high praise, was the United States title match in which LA Knight defended against Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu getting the win here is, of course, they're looking to build the Samoan Werewolf up. Continue the line of successes that the Anoa'i family and their branches have had in the WWE over the years. And these two are very good workers. Had a great match, and with Jacob Fatu coming out on top, finishing him off with the moonsault. Then in another match, originally it was supposed to be El Grande Americano versus Rey Mysterio, but Rey Mysterio was injured this past Friday night during the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, I believe. And it saw El Grande Americano defeat Rey Fenix. Now, this match got some criticism just simply because of the fact you're trying to build Rey Fenix up, because originally this is going to be Rey Mysterio, and so they had to kind of make a change on the fly, right? But at the expense of Rey Fenix's, push. They're trying to build him up, much like they're building up his brother on Raw. Rey Fenix taking his first loss to El Grande Americano. Then we get to the WWE Women's title match. that saw Tiffany Stratton defend and retain over Charlotte Flair, keeping Charlotte at 15 world title reigns. They had a pretty good match here. Of course, going into this match, there was just a lot of stuff that happened, as everybody knows. A few weeks ago, the side by side promo, and then in the ring, the going off script and breaking the fourth wall, that all kind of went down. But this did see Tiffany Stratton defeat Charlotte Flair for the WWE Women's title, and the main event for night one saw Seth Rollins defeat CM Punk and Roman Reigns in the triple threat match, and probably one of a swerve and a bit of a swerve that some people saw coming. Paul Heyman turned his back on both Roman Reigns and CM Punk. Who, of course, Heyman was accompanying Punk to the ring, to fulfill the favor, as it were. But Heyman ultimately turning on both Roman Reigns and CM Punk to side with Rollins. With Rollins' win now, there's some talk now. We'll talk a little bit more about it later, that maybe he'll be the next one to challenge, or maybe after some initial rematches with Gunther, because Gunther probably has a contractual rematch with Jey Uso. So after maybe some of those rematches happen, it could be that Rollins might be the next one after Gunther to challenge Jey Uso for the title. There's been a lot of talk. Maybe they'll ultimately put the title on Rollins at some point this year. So that all happened on night one of WrestleMania. Now we'll get to night two, and we'll go with that. Hey, Rick. Thanks for popping in. As always, if you haven't already, if you can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the question to the best of my ability. So now, moving on to night two of WrestleMania and the wrestling wrap-up here. As I will... which happened, of course, last night. And, of course, WrestleMania happened from Allegiant Stadium in Paradise, Nevada. So, on night two, the night opened up with probably the one match that got the best reaction from the fans. And Io Sky retained the WWE Women's World title over Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. Going into this, Io Sky had been placed almost as third wheel. It seemed more the whole thing was more about Rhea and Bianca than her defending the title. And of course, as we'd seen over the weeks, Io was not happy being the third wheel in this. After during the match, after Rhea hit the riptide on Bianca Belair, was going for the pinfall, Io hit the moonsault to break up that pin and pin Bianca Belair to retain the Women's World title. This now sets up a continual feud between Belair and Rhea Ripley. Io Sky might actually get a decent run here, not just being a transitional champion or just being somebody just to keep the belt warm for other people. I'm kind of excited because as a wrestling purist and fan, I didn't like the idea that Io was kind of getting treated as a third wheel either. So it's going to be nice to see her in that position. The second match on night two, in a Sin City street fight, Drew McIntyre defeated Damian Priest. And there was a particular comical moment that happened during the match in which and I guess it's a habit he kind of has done a lot. A lot of people were talking about this. I guess he put a text message out on his phone or whatever saying, bored at work. So well, that just goes to show you that they can even throw some. Then after that match, of course, the Fatal 4-Way for the WWE Intercontinental title, in which Braun Breaker had defended against Penta and the Judgment Day's Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio, which saw Dominic Mysterio get the win. Get the win and get the a bit of an interesting thing happened after the show. Well, I'll actually talk a bit about that actually a little later after we get through all this. But yeah, Dominic Mysterio is your new Intercontinental Champion. Now, originally Randy Orton was set to face Kevin Owens at WrestleMania, but as everybody knows, Owens had suffered a serious neck injury, had to pull out of WrestleMania. So Randy Orton was then slated to issue an open challenge. Now, many people were thinking, well, maybe it was one of the recent signees that would possibly, like maybe Rusev or Aleister Black. But who they ended up getting has gotten some heat because of who they got. And who they got was TNA World Champion Joe Hendry. And the match went 3 minutes and 10 seconds. And a lot of people were kind of upset at this. I'm sure a lot of TNA fans were upset at this because you basically just bring in our world champion just to job out to this guy. I mean, a lot of people are saying, now, unfortunately, this seems to be the way WWE seems to be doing things. Is why I would advise companies in the future not to consider, even if WWE offers you a lot of money, don't take it. It's not worth it if you're going to get treated like this. All right. It's kind of funny because it's this similar situation that got the most recent CEO of, before they changed over, the most recent CEO of Anthem Sports. I don't know if a CEO, one of the higher ups, who got fired because they wanted to actually bring Joe Hendry in to job out to the Miz, and the guy wouldn't have it. So they pressured. But, which does lead to another interesting thing that happened over the weekend as WWE acquired AAA, the Mexican wrestling promotion, lucha promotion down in Mexico. In fact, El Hijo del Vikingo actually was in attendance at the show, had a conversation with El Grande Americano during the show, but that can be interesting just in the fact that, of course, one of the big stars of AAA right now is Alberto El Patron, known to American fans as Alberto Del Rio, and I'm sure everybody remembers the history he's had with the WWE. So that's going to be fun to watch. Then you had Logan Paul and AJ Styles go at it, which Logan Paul defeated AJ Styles. There was some controversy there. Karrion Kross got involved. Some brass knucks got involved. One of Paul's people tried to get the brass knucks to Paul, only for Karrion Kross to intercept him. Then Karrion Kross tried to get AJ Styles to use the brass knucks on Paul, only for him to toss him aside and say, no, I'm not going to do it. Only for Paul to pick him up and use them on AJ. So that's how the match ended. Next match was for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship, as the Judgment Day's Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez defended against. Originally, it was supposed to be Lyra Valkyria and Bayley. Unfortunately, they took Bayley out of the match. Now, it was a kayfabe injury. It was not a real injury. It was a kayfabe injury, which people are critical because it's like, they feel that they kind of did Bailey dirty there. You take her out of WrestleMania, but what they got out of that is they got the return of the man, Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch made her return, teaming with Lyra Valkyria to become the new WWE Women's Tag Team Champion, and for Lyra Valkyria to become a double champion. As a traditionalist, I'm not necessarily happy with this move. Don't like the idea of having double champions, but it's just what they decide to do. But I think the big criticism here is that they kind of did Bailey dirty. Now Bailey is the type. Bailey's been the type who's been wanting to help put others over, much at the cost of her own career. But this is just, they just kayfabe took her out of the match so they could bring Becky Lynch back. That was probably not something that a lot of fans expected nor really wanted. And in probably the match that got the most hate, lowest rating on Cage Match, John Cena did become a 17-time world champion, at least according to WWE records, the most number of world titles. John Cena defeated Cody Rhodes. There's been a lot of criticism about how this all came about. Criticism of how this story was built up. And then they brought The Rock in for one appearance, and then he disappeared for the whole thing. Almost made it seem worthless to have The Rock even involved. Travis Scott got involved. But just a lot of negative heat on that match. So that's all I got. Let's see. So some other, of course, notes that came out from this weekend, of course. As I mentioned, WWE bought out Lucha Promotion AAA down in Mexico. That was one of the big news stories that came out this past weekend. Let's see. And we'll probably in the next few weeks here, we'll probably see like as has been happening the last few years, a major purge is going to probably be happening. You'll be seeing probably as a number of wrestlers' contracts will either be coming up or be being released. Part to make room for some of their new signings that happened, like Rusev, like Aleister Black, Jeff Cobb, who just recently signed as well. There's talk also that once her contract's up, Mariah May be signing with the WWE. So to make room for those, of course, there'll be a bit of a purge. They'll probably be getting rid of some of the excess fat, as it were. There'll be probably some WWE talent that will be that either their contract will be coming up and not renewed, or will be being released. So there's going to be, over the next month or so, there's going to probably be quite a bit of movement, particularly between the big two of WWE and AEW, just because contracts coming up, just more of a purge happening. So, but anyways, this WrestleMania got a lot of bad heat. A lot of people were not happy with how many of the matches were built. Some of the bookings were not well received. So I guess moving forward, we'll just have to wait and see what all happens. So now, with that being said, now that we're done with the wrestling wrap up, with today being Monday, April the 21st, 2025, let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. So first off, I'm going to head back 20 years ago today. I was on this date 20 years ago today, back in 2005. Back in 2005, the 40th issue of Back Issue from Tomorrow's went on sale on this. Oh, I'm sorry. That was from 2010. Okay, no, 2005. Oh, okay, yeah, 2005 was the other thing. Okay, hold on. Sorry about that. I screwed up. I screwed up. Yes. All right. So going back, as I said, 20 years ago to 2005. On this date, 20 years ago, back in 2005, Arms elfin lead in the passing rain, or how can a girl have reached such feelings, was an OVA that was released on this date back 20 years ago. 20 years ago today, Arms is special elfin lead in the passing rain, or how can a girl have reached such feelings, was released on this date back in 2005. Now moving ahead to 2010. Which of course was 15 years ago today. On this date, 15 years ago today, back in 2010. The 40th issue of Back Issue from Tomorrow's went on sale on this date back in 2010. Sold for $7.95, was 80 pages. So number 40th issue of Back Issue from Tomorrow's went on sale on this date back in 2010, 15 years ago. Sold for $7.95, was 80 pages. Just under $8 for that. And finally, on this date 5 years ago today, back in 2020, on this date 5 years ago today, Willie Mack defeated Ace Austin for the Impact X Division. Of course, Impact Wrestling now, going back to Total Nonstop Action, or TNA moniker. On this date 5 years ago today, Willie Mack defeated Ace Austin for the Impact Wrestling's X Division Championship. So with that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed the show tonight. If you missed anything, of course, you can go back and watch the show again. And with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.